Alright, good morning students. Now we have just finished second chapter of chemistry, that is acids, bases and salts, and I have already sent the PDF. Okay, I have sent the PDF of question answers, and they are not to be shared with everyone. Only those who have subscribed they got it, and you must write everything down from there, because remember, after the school reopens there will be limited time, and there is very little way in which I just don't have the time to repeat everything. Okay, that's why I'm telling you it will not be possible to repeat the lessons which are done. It is your responsibility to watch the videos every day, learn from them, copy the question and answers, learn whatever you can and prepare for your exams, because board exams will be held in March. Okay, so it's now on you. I'm doing everything I can for you, but in some cases, some students I know, I'm seeing every day that they're watching the videos and working hard. This is not a vacation. This is actually a preparation time, and March you will have your board exams. Okay, those who are not preparing, well, best of luck then. Alright, the human eye and the colorful world. This is the second chapter on physics. We have learned a few fundamental properties of light. Okay, that light travels as a series of transverse waves. Light is a form of energy. Light can travel through vacuum. Light is a non-mechanical wave. In other words, it can travel through vacuum. Sound waves are mechanical waves. They cannot travel through vacuum. Okay, but light is an electromagnetic wave. Light consists of certain kinds of waves which are actually called electromagnetic in nature, and therefore such electromagnetic waves can travel through space. Okay, and that makes the whole universe visible to us. That particular property of light. Okay, we have studied this in the previous chapter of physics. Now let's go ahead. Now this is a lot easier chapter. You will find this interesting also. Alright, the human eye and the colorful world. Well, you know that the world appears to us in color. Okay, we can see objects around us in color. But there are many animals which cannot see in color. For example, a cow or a buffalo. Okay, those are animals. Most animals in fact cannot see in color, because their eyes do not have certain types of cells. You see, the intensity of light and the color is visible because of two types of the cone cells allow us to see in color, and the rod cells allow us to see in dim light. Okay, but certain animals do not have the cone cells, and therefore they cannot see in color. Okay, we have got cone cells in the retina which allow us to see the visible universe all around us in color. A monkey, for example, can see in color just like humans, but dogs cannot see in color. Okay, it is a completely or a fallacy, a wrong thing to understand, to sort of think that dogs and especially a bullock, okay, a bull, a large bull charges at a red colored object. No, that's not true, because a bull is colorblind. There are certain humans who are born colorblind, but that's a defect of the human eye and a birth defect, but that is completely different. Normally humans have color vision, okay, and are able to see in depth in 3D. We'll discuss all those things as we go down the chapter. Okay, you have studied in the previous chapter about refraction of light by lenses, that is convex and concave lenses. You have also studied the nature, position and magnification, that is relative size of images formed by convex lens and concave lenses. How can these ideas help us in the study of the human eye? The human eye also uses light and enables us to see objects around us. It has a lens in its structure. What is the function of the lens in the human eye? How do the lenses used in spectacles correct defects of the vision? Let us consider these questions in this chapter. Okay, we have learned in the previous chapter about light and some of its properties. In this chapter we shall use these ideas to teach some of the optical phenomena in nature. The word optical means light. You see, in higher classes in physics you will study what is called optics. Optics is nothing but the study of light and the phenomena of light associated with the properties of light. Okay, so you will study optics, especially if you choose physics. You will get completely separate chapters on optics. So optical phenomena is a phenomena which is concerning light around us in nature. Okay, for example, even lightning or a rainbow, okay, or a mirage, they are all optical phenomena. Okay, we shall also discuss about rainbow formation, splitting of white light and blue color of the sky. Alright, now the human eye. We come to the human eye. The human eye is one of the most valuable and sensitive sense organs. It enables us to see the wonderful world around us in color. On closing the eyes, we can identify objects to some extent by their smell, taste, sound they make, or by touching them. It is, however, impossible to identify colors while closing the eyes. Thus, of all the sense organs, the human eye is the most significant one, as it enables us to see the beautiful, colorful world around us. Alright, now just understand something. Imagine how blind people must be feeling. Okay, vision is a very valuable sight, a very valuable property, or a very valuable sense organ, a sense. You see, we have five senses: the sense of touch, the sense of smell, the sense of taste, the sense of hearing, okay, and of course the sense of sight. Of all the five senses, all five senses are important to us because they allow us to perceive the world around us. But without the sense of sight, things become quite impossible. Okay, it becomes very difficult. There are some people who are born blind, and they've never seen the world around them. Okay, they can only hear things, they can sense them by touching them. Okay, they can smell things, but they can't see things, and that is an important gift of life, vision. All right. So, and of course, we can't. Have you ever heard of a person dreaming in color? If you close your eyes, you can dream, but it's all in black and white. Okay, we never dream in color. All right. The human eye is like a camera. Its lens system forms an image on a light-sensitive screen called the retina. Light enters the eye through a thin membrane called the cornea. I'll just discuss this with the help of the diagram. Okay, it forms a transparent bulge, a bulging part, a curved part in front like that. Okay, there's a curve. Light enters the cornea through a thin membrane called the cornea. It forms a transparent bulge on the front part or the surface of the eyeball, as it is shown in figure. Okay, when you write your questions, you should write as shown in the diagram. Don't write as shown in figure 11.1. When you write in your notebook, you should write as shown in the figure, or write it or as shown in the diagram. The eyeball is approximately spherical in shape with a diameter of about 2.3 centimeters. Most of the refraction for the light rays entering the eye occurs at the outer surface of the cornea. The crystalline lens merely provides the finer adjustments of focal length required to focus objects at different distances on the retina. We find a structure called the iris behind the cornea. Okay, the iris is the colored part. Iris is a dark muscular diaphragm that controls the size of the pupil. The pupil regulates and controls the amount of light entering the eye. Alright, I just want to show you this diagram is important. Alright, now I have written the question also there. You can see this question. Explain the structure of the human eye with the help of a diagram. So this, and remember, many times in the board exams this diagram has been asked. Explain the structure of the human eye with the help of a diagram, a 4-mark question, and you got to do it. And it's not so difficult. Okay, remember, in physics or in science in general, including biology, chemistry, diagrams, you don't have to create paintings. Okay, this is not a painting. You must create good diagrams with a pencil and scale, and or a rounder if necessary, a compass. But make sure that you label your diagrams properly. Labeling in science is extremely important. Alright, now let's see here. See this, it's almost spherical, but not completely spherical, like a ball. And that's why the outer part we call it eyeball. Actually, it's only a curved part is visible in front. And behind also there is a complete curved part. Okay, as you can see that. Now, the white part of the eye, the white part is actually called the cornea. Okay, the cornea is the front part of the eye, which is white in color. And in the center there is a dark colored portion, which is completely spherical. The dark colored portion is called the iris. In the center of the iris, there is a small aperture through which light can enter. Remember, light does not enter through the white part. The white part is only there to actually provide substance or framework or a structure. Okay, actually it is the iris, the colored part. Some people have blue color eyes, you must have seen. Some people have brown eyes. Most people here, we have black eyes. Okay, that black colored part is called the iris. And in the center of the black colored part, there is what is called the aperture. Even a camera has got an aperture through which light enters. So that aperture, okay, that aperture in the center of the iris, in the center of the colored part, That iris, the central part, is called the pupil. The pupil or the aperture is able to dilate. Okay, it is able to grow slightly larger and then contract again. Okay, it allows light to enter the eye. So actually it is the pupil which is the most important part of the iris, or the part of the front part of the eye. The pupil allows the light to enter. Once light enters it, the light goes to the back part of the eye, which is called the retina. As you can see the diagram, look at the diagram carefully. That is the retina. Okay, that retina, here you can see, okay, this retina. This is the retina where actually an image is formed. But the image formed is real. In other words, it is inverted. We have studied in the previous chapter that real images are always inverted. So a real image is formed, it is inverted. Now you might start wondering that if it is inverted, we should be seeing everything upside down. No. What happens is that the inverted image then passes, it gets converted into electrical impulses. And the electrical impulse of the image passes through the optic nerve. The word optic means light. It passes to the optic nerve, and the optic nerve carries the electrical impulse to the back part of the brain. Okay, the back part of the brain where the optic nerve is attached to the brain, that part of the brain is called the visual cortex. Okay, the visual cortex. I'll write it out here. Okay, the visual cortex of the brain makes vision possible. Okay, the visual cortex of the brain makes vision possible. Remember, if you have a perfect pair of eyes, your eyes are not at all damaged. But if the visual cortex of the brain, the back part of the brain, where the optic nerve is attached, if that visual cortex of the brain is damaged, then despite the fact that you have a perfect pair of eyes, you will be blind. Okay, so actually it is the brain which sees, not the eyes. The eyes only collect the light. The eyes collect the light, and the brain makes it possible to see objects. But when the electrical impulse is reached, okay, when they reach the brain, the visual cortex, it becomes upside down again. So that is why you see everything upright and not upside down. The image which is formed on the retina is real and inverted. It is collected, it is converted into electrical impulses, it goes to the visual cortex of the brain, it interprets it in a proper way. Okay, upside down becomes upright again, and now you are able to see all objects in color all around you, upright position, not upside down. Okay, so the visual cortex is important. It is the visual cortex which makes sight possible. The brain, or remember, it is the brain which sees, it is the brain which hears, it is the brain which senses with the touch, everything. The brain has got sensory perception units. There are certain senses, or rather there are certain parts of the brain which are associated with the sense of smell, the sense of sight, and so on. If those parts are damaged, then you will not be able to sense anything. You will not be able to sense sight, hearing, and so on. But it is the brain which makes it possible. The eyes only collect the light. Okay, so first of all, now look at the diagram again. There is a crystalline lens. This crystalline lens is made of a fibrous jelly-like substance. It is made of a fibrous jelly-like substance. It is completely transparent, 100% transparent. It allows light to pass through it. Okay, and the lens is held in place. It's a convex lens, a natural convex lens. It is held in place by ciliary muscles. These muscles hold the lens in its place, so it cannot move about. Even when we are tossing and turning in sleep, the lens remains at its position. But of course, the muscles can contract and expand. They become tight sometimes and they relax sometimes. And therefore, the focal length of the convex natural lens changes. And that is how we are able to see far away and near objects also. Okay, in one fraction of a second, you can see far away objects, and the next fraction of a second, you can focus on nearby objects. That is possible because the ciliary muscles are able to contract and expand. When the ciliary muscles contract and expand, they change the focal length of the natural lens. When the focal length of the natural lens changes, for example, when you want to focus on something very close, you want to read something, okay, then the ciliary muscles contract. When they contract, the focal length of the convex lens, the natural lens, the focal length decreases. and you are able to focus on nearby objects. When you want to see far away, the ciliary muscles relax and the lens becomes slightly thinner and the focal length actually increases and you can see far away objects. So ciliary muscles are extremely important. Alright, so we got the crystalline lens, which is made of a dense fibrous jelly-like substance. Okay, it is a convex lens. It is held in position by the ciliary muscles, and there is the aqueous humor. Okay, there are two types of humor. Aqueous humor is a liquid jelly-like substance. हम जैम खाते हैं ना, जैम. Okay, ऐसा जैम जैसा होता है. Aqueous humor and vitreous humor. There is another substance called vitreous humor, which is not shown out here, but it is in this blue colored part behind the lens. Aqueous humor is in front of the lens, okay, and vitreous humor is behind the lens. They are jelly-like substances, but they are completely transparent. Okay, then the pupil is the central part from where the lens, the eye gets the light. The light enters through the pupil. The iris is the colored part, and the cornea is the white part. Okay, and of course the ciliary muscles, they hold the lens in position. Retina is a group of cells. It is like a screen. Okay, like एक पर्दे की तरह जहाँ पे पिक्चर होता है. The retina consists of two types of cells, cone cells and rod cells. Okay, and the optic nerve, sorry, it carries the impulse from the image is converted into electrical impulse and it is conveyed to the brain, the visual cortex, and sight is possible. Alright, so this is explained out here. Remember, this question will be asked to you. Explain the structure of the human eye with the help of a diagram. What I have marked here must be written and the diagram must be done. Okay, right, now let's carry on. The pupil regulates the amount of light entering the eye. You see the central part, the pupil, okay, that aperture from where the light enters. It can dilate in, suppose you are sitting in a dark room. Alright, when you are sitting in a dark room, there is very little light around you. So what happens is, you cannot see properly. Now slowly your eyes get used to the darkness. How? Because the pupils dilate, they become bigger. Sorry, the pupils dilate and allow more light to enter. When more light enters, you are able to see better. Now when suddenly the lights come on, after 20 minutes, half an hour, the lights come on, and for a few minutes you start blinking because of the glare of the light. Why? Because the pupils have not contracted. The same thing happens when you go from your room to bright sunlight. Okay, when you go out into the sunlight, suddenly you feel the harshness of the light. Why? Because when you are in the room, the pupils are dilated to allow more light to come in. Now when you go out in the open sunshine, okay, then the pupils after a couple of minutes they contract and allow less light to go inside. So the pupil regulates the amount of light entering the eye. The eye lens forms an inverted real image of the object on the retina. Inverted and real image. The retina is a delicate membrane having enormous number of light sensitive cells. These light sensitive cells are called rod cells. Okay, the light sensitive cells get activated upon illumination and generate electrical signals, and these electrical signals are sent to the brain via the optic nerve. The brain interprets these electrical signals and finally processes the information so that we are able to perceive objects that we see around us. Okay, that is the process of vision, and you have to learn this up. Okay, and you have to explain it in your own words. If you don't want to learn everything up, you can explain in your own words also. Alright, now you see there is something that you can know out here. Damage to or malfunctioning of any part of the visual system can lead to significant loss of visual functioning. For example, if any of the structures involved in the transmission of light like the cornea, pupil, eye lens, aqueous humor, vitreous humor, the one I talked to you about behind the lens, there is vitreous humor, or those responsible for conversion of light to electrical impulses like the retina or even the optic nerve that transmits these impulses to the brain, suppose it is damaged, it will result in visual impairment. Visual impairment means loss of vision. Lots of people, you see, they suffer from loss of vision. For example, when there is a solar eclipse, okay, when there is solar eclipse, some children sometimes inadvertently, without knowing, without proper guidance, they look at the sun, because solar eclipse is a dangerous time. You should never look at the solar eclipse. In fact, you should never look at the sun any day. Okay, never look at the sun directly. because it is dangerous. It can damage the retina. And remember, once your retina is damaged, no doctor in the world can do anything about it. You can become blind because of sunlight. Never look at the sun directly, okay, thinking that, oh, I can do that. No, you should not be doing that. That's not bravery or courage. That is stupidity. Looking at the sun directly is not bravery, it is not courage, it is simply stupidity. Okay, so be careful, it can damage your eyes. So anything which damages your eyes can cause loss of vision, okay, or visual impairment. It can be permanent sometimes, it can be temporary also. If you are lucky, it may be temporary, otherwise it can become permanent. Mostly it is permanent, and then there is nothing you can do about it. You might have experienced that you are not able to see objects clearly for some time when you enter from bright light to a room which is dim light. For example, if you are going to see a movie in a theater, okay, and the movie has already started, you are late, so the film has started. So inside the cinema hall, everything is dark, and then suddenly you can't see where your seat is. Your seat number, you can't see where your empty seat is, and you bump into seats, you bump into people, and people shout at you, "Kya kar rahe ho? Kya kar rahe ho?" But actually they can see, but you can't see because you just entered from outside. Outside it was bright light, and inside there is darkness. But in such a case, what you should do is wait on the side. Don't go straight to your seat. Just wait on the side for a while, for a couple of minutes. After a couple of minutes, the pupils of your eyes will contract a little, and rather it will dilate, not contract, but the opposite will happen. It will dilate, allowing more light to go in, and therefore in the dark room you will be able to see it clearly. Once you start seeing clearly, you will be able to find your seat very easily. All right. After some time, however, you may be able to see things in the dim lit room. The pupils of an eye acts like a variable aperture whose size can be varied with the help of the iris. When the light is very bright, the iris contracts the pupil to allow less light to enter the eye. However, in dim light, the iris expands so that the pupil expands to allow more light to enter the eye. Thus, the pupil opens completely through the relaxation of the iris. Alright, now power of accommodation. Okay, here there is a question here. What is the power of accommodation of the eye? Explain this. Again, these are questions which have been asked in the board exams. Okay, and the PDF which I will be sending to those serious students who are really watching videos every day. There are some students I know who are working every single day. Okay, and they deserve it, and I will send them. Alright, what is the power? Even the maths PDF. I'm preparing the maths PDF, those maths personal notes and PDF also I will send to those who are serious, not to everybody, because some are just not working at all. What is power of accommodation of the eye? Explain. You see, first of all, we have the ability to contract and relax our ciliary muscles. Alright, and therefore we are able to change the focal length of the eye lens, and we can see far away and close by objects. We can read nearby. A normal person with normal eyesight can thread a needle, okay, easily. It's a near point work. बहुत नजदीक का काम है. You can even see far away objects, okay. But that is because a normal person does not suffer from any eye problems. Okay. Now, as we grow older, you see something happens to our ciliary muscles. The ciliary muscles lose their ability to contract and expand. So what happens is the lens, the ability of the lens to contract and expand. In other words, the ability of the lens to change its focal length. Okay. The ability of the lens or the power of the lens to change its focal length decreases as we grow older because the ciliary muscles become weak. And this decrease in power of the lens is called power of accommodation. Power of accommodation is basically the ability of the lens to see nearby objects and far away objects because the focal length of the lens can change. That is called power of accommodation. But this power of accommodation is good when we are young. As we grow older, the power of accommodation becomes a little defective. So, for a normal person, what is power of accommodation? Power of accommodation is the ability of the human eye, the lens, especially the lens, okay, and the ciliary muscles to expand and contract and thereby increase or decrease the focal length to allow people to see nearby objects as well as far away objects. Alright, let's understand here. Okay, the eye lens is composed of, here you see I have written some, if you just see here, the eye lens is composed of a fibrous jelly-like material. All this answer is already there. Okay, when I pass on these PDF personal notes to you, you will be able to write the answer from this also. The eye lens is composed of a fibrous jelly-like material. Its curvature can be modified to some extent by the ciliary muscles. The change in the curvature of the eye lens can thus change its focal length, just as I have been explaining. When the muscles are relaxed, the lens becomes thin. Thus, its focal length increases. This enables us to see distant objects very clearly. When you are looking at objects which are very close to the eye, the ciliary muscles contract. Okay, this increases the curvature of the eye lens. The eye lens becomes more curved. Alright, the eye lens then becomes thicker. Consequently, the focal length of the eye lens decreases, and this allows us to see nearby objects also. And this ability of the eye lens is called power of accommodation. The ability of the eye lens to adjust its focal length in order to see near as well as far away is called power of accommodation. However, the focal length of the eye lens cannot be decreased below a certain minimum limit. You see, there is a limit to which you can increase or decrease your focal length. That is why you cannot see microscopic things, and you cannot see very distant objects very clearly, because there is a limit to which it can expand and contract, increase and decrease the focal length. Okay. However, the focal length of the eye lens cannot be decreased below a certain minimum limit. Try to read a printed page by holding it very close to your eyes, or try to read something which is very far away. You won't be able to do it. You may see the image blurred or feel strain in your eyes. To see an object comfortably and distinctly, clearly, you must hold it at about 25 centimeters away from your eyes. This is for a normal person without glasses. The minimum distance at which objects can be seen most distinctly, clearly, without eye strain is called the least distance of distinct vision, which is about 25 centimeters for a normal person. It is also called the near point of the eye. Okay, for a young adult with normal vision, the near point is about 25 centimeters. So if you got normal vision, you should be able to see an object clearly at 25 centimeters from your eye. The furthest point up to which the eye can see objects clearly is called the far point of the eye. It is infinity for a normal eye. You can see, yes, you can see the moon also. On a clear day, you can see the outline of the moon. You can see dark spots on the moon, which are actually craters on the moon. They are called maria. The craters, the dark patches on the moon. You can see everything clearly, especially with glasses or without glasses. You can see very clearly. Okay, for a normal person. So we can see to infinity. That is why we are able to see distant stars and galaxies. You may note here a normal eye can see objects clearly that are between 25 centimeters and infinity. If you bring it very clearly to your eyes, you will find blurriness. It will not be clear and distinct. Sometimes the crystalline lens of people at old age becomes milky and cloudy. This condition is called cataract. This causes partial or complete loss of vision. It is possible to restore vision through cataract surgery. Alright, just before I discuss cataract, okay, the first thing out here is what is near point of the eye or distance of distinct vision, 25 centimeters. You should be able to answer this question. Alright, what is cataract? How does cataract form in the eye? Okay, here what is distance vision, what is the near point of the eye or distance of distinct vision, and here what is cataract, how does cataract form in the eye. Alright, let's discuss this. Alright, first of all, what you need to understand is that as we grow older, our body begins to suffer from some kind of problems. It's not necessary. Some people right into old age, they have got superb eyesight. Okay, but sometimes some people are more prone to cataract because of genetic disorders. Okay, they are born with such disorders. Some people are not in a position to look up. They simply don't take care of their eyes in a way that they should, and that's why they suffer from eye defects. What is cataract? You see the lens of the eye. Okay, it is very crystal clear and transparent. It allows light to go through to the retina. But sometimes as we grow older, the lens of the eye, the natural fibrous jelly-like lens, it becomes cloudy and milky. So it is no longer transparent. It does not allow light to pass through, and the person loses his sight, partially or completely. And therefore, you see, something has to be done. So what happens is that this condition is called cataract. Okay, what is cataract? Nothing but the cloudiness of the eye lens. Lots of older people suffer from cataract. There was a time when, especially in India, in the villages, people did not know what cataract was. Older people never went to the hospital to correct the cataract surgery, to get cataract surgery, and they suffered this lifelong. But today it is quite common. In fact, cataract surgery is one of the most common surgeries all over the world. And not only that, but it is very fast and cheap also. It's not costly at all. And in a few minutes, just a few minutes, an eye surgeon can remove this cataract lens, the lens which has become cloudy. They will remove the lens, and in its place you can have an artificial lens, and these artificial lenses are called implanted lenses. These implanted lenses are not very costly, anybody can afford them. There are expensive lenses also, okay, depending upon how much money you are willing to spend. In most cases people are willing to spend because it's all about eyesight. Okay, you can have 5,000 rupees lens put inside, or 25, 30,000, 40,000 lens put inside, but that lens gives you complete vision. That is the important thing. And if it is planted inside, in the place of the original lens, that means if the lens is implanted in the eye, then you don't need to wear those thick glasses. You see, people who do not have implanted lenses, that means when they perform cataract surgery, the cataract lens is removed, the cloudy lens is removed. In its place, a new lens is put, artificial lens. They don't need glasses, thick glasses. But if it is not replaced by an artificial lens, then you will require large, thick glasses. Okay, and that makes you look sort of unhealthy, sort of. It does not give you a good look, those thick glasses. So nowadays, most people prefer those implanted lenses because they are cheap also these days, and it's easy. And the whole surgery is painless, and it takes just a few minutes. Okay, so that is about cataract. All right. Now let's just a few more things here. Okay, why do we have two eyes for vision and not just one eye? Now you see, two eyes give us depth perception. Depth perception means we are able to see things in 3 dimension, 3D. Okay, think of the whiteboard or a piece of paper. That is in 2D, 2 dimension. It does not have thickness or depth. Okay, but the objects around us have got thickness or depth. So just hold your hand, finger in front of you. You can see all around it. Of course, you can't see behind it, but you can see all around it. Okay, 180 degrees, and that is called depth perception or 3D. Most animals, there are lots of animals which do not have depth perception or 3D. Human beings, we have got 2 eyes located in the front of the head. Some animals have eyes located on the sides. For example, there is a shark called a hammerhead shark. Its front part is shaped like a hammer. Okay, that's why it is called a hammerhead shark. A hammerhead shark has got 2 eyes located completely in the sides. So it has got supervision, but it does not have color vision. Remember that. In our case, we have got 3D vision because we have got 2 eyes in the front. Both the eyes share about 5 degrees common field of vision. There is about 5 degrees common to both the eyes, like this. You see, when the 5 degrees are common to both the eyes, inside between the 2 fingers, we are able to see objects in 3D, 3 dimension. That is called depth perception. So this is a unique gift of nature to us. Okay, it's a fantastic thing that we are able to see in 3D. There are several advantages of having 2 eyes instead of just 1 eye. It gives a wider field of view. A human being has a horizontal field of view of about 150 degrees with 1 eye and about 180 degrees with 2 eyes. The ability to detect faint objects is of course enhanced because of 2 eyes. You can see better with 2 eyes than one eye. That is common sense. Some animals, usually prey animals, animals of prey like lions and tigers, okay, birds of prey like eagles, have their 2 eyes positioned on opposite sides of their heads to give the widest field of view on opposite sides. Alright, but our 2 eyes are positioned on the front of our head, and it thus reduces our field of view in favor of what is called stereopsis. Stereo vision. Okay, stereopsis means stereoscopic vision. Like you have stereoscopic sound, you can hear surround sound. In the same way, stereopsis means ability to see in stereo, that is in 3D. Shut 1 eye and the world looks flat and in 2 dimensions. Keep both eyes open and the world takes on a 3rd dimension of depth. Because of our eyes are separated by a few centimeters, each eye sees a different image, slightly different image from one side and the second side. Our brain combines the 2 images into one image using the extra information to tell us how close an object is or far away. People who have 1 eye will be able to see in 2D. That means in the sense that they will not get a proper idea of that perception. Okay. All right, defects of vision and their correction, I will into this tomorrow. Okay, this is not a very lengthy lesson and it's an easy lesson. We should be able to finish in 3 sessions. That should be enough. All right, enough for today. Tomorrow we'll carry on. Meanwhile, keep watching videos, keep trying to understand, take down your notes, and the PDFs which I send to you, you better write them down in your notebook, because it will be easy to study the question and answers from the notebook rather than from your PDF. Okay, it's much better to write it down. When you write it down, you learn also. So that's a much better way of doing things. All right, take care and have a nice day.